Hi-diddly-ho, neighborino, and welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by FilmBook. My name is Matt Brunet, but some of you may know me as Animat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and Animats Reviews. If this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, the title will go and explain everything for you. This is the Animation Podcast. You got that? Podcast, animation, those are the two important words here. You can even forget about the, okay? We're all good? Great. Okay, but specifically though, it talks about the latest news that happened this week. So for starters, we are going to be looking into the winner of the BAFTA Award for the category of Best Animated Feature. Then afterwards, we will be looking into a movie called Bubbles and who will be directing it. Then afterwards, we will have a little study on Illumination Entertainment and why is it that nowadays they are so godforsaken successful. Then afterwards, we will be looking into the all-new Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. Then finally, we have Matt's Pick of the Week. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then head on down to FilmBook, that is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. And so, for starters, allow me to talk to you guys about the BAFTA Awards. Now, for those of you who are not necessarily familiar with the BAFTAs, this is pretty much an award show that is taken about as seriously as the big ones, like the Golden Globes, the Oscars, basically the ones that actually do matter. And with that said, the only big difference is that the people who are judging here are from the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. So the people in England are the ones who decide which ones are the best movies of the year in each of their respective categories. But this time around, when they got into Best Animated Feature, there are a lot of first times happening in here. Not only is this the first time that we see 4 animated features be nominated for Best Animated Feature, which beforehand they always just pick 3 animated films. But for this one, though, this is the first time ever that a stop-motion animated feature actually won a BAFTA award. And I'm talking, of course, about Kubo and the Two Strings. Yes, Kubo was actually the big winner at the BAFTAs, beating out every single other Disney film. All the other nominees are legitimately the big Disney films that were released in 2016, which includes Zootopia, Moana, and Finding Dory. Now, this is actually the first time in a long time because that a Disney, well, actually not in a long time, but like most of the time, it's usually an animated, it's usually a Disney movie that would win the BAFTA Awards. The only exceptions would actually include Happy Feet, Rango, and also the Lego Movie. That's pretty much it. Would that be 3 of them? Yeah, so far it's 3. And now Kubo and the Two Strings is just the 4th one. And once again, the first time ever that a stop-motion animated feature would actually win one. Now, beforehand, yes, there have been plenty of stop-motion animated films that did get a nomination. These actually include, going in reverse order, there's Shaun the Sheep movie, The Box Trolls, Frankenweenie, what else was there? Fantastic Mr. Fox, Coraline, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, those are pretty much the ones. So they do recognize stop motion films, but this is the first time that Kubo and the Two Strings actually won something. Now, what is interesting to note is that I am using the article from Cartoon Brew to talk about this subject. And what this article actually did brought up that is interesting is that most of the time, actually, like almost every single time, ever since the BAFTAs decided to add in Best Animated Feature, it would be pretty much connected with the Oscars. Like almost every single time, they can pretty much predict who can win Best Animated Feature at the Oscars. Now, the only, like, every single one, like, Happy Feet, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Rango, Brave, and Inside Out, like, they, like, pretty much whatever could win the BAFTA would also be the one that could win the Oscar. The only time that it actually did not happen, that the BAFTA actually gave an award to a different animated film that would win an Oscar was actually back in for the 2014 movies when the Lego Movie won the BAFTA award and Big Hero 6 ended up winning the Oscar. And that was actually because the Lego Movie did not even get a nomination at the Oscars. So that would pretty much explain why that was pretty much the only time when things were a little bit different. But will this actually reflect upon what's going to happen at the Oscars? Now, that's actually pretty much the big question out of all this. Because it's actually very interesting when you look at who's pretty much been winning all the different awards throughout, like, the different areas. Not just the big award shows like the Annies, the Golden Globes, and all that kind of stuff, but also, like, with the critic, just the group of critics, like the New York Critic Awards or the LA Critic Awards and all that kind of stuff. And it's actually not like last year where it is pretty much unanimous that it's Inside Out. Like, Inside Out would be the one that would always win every single time. Like the winner for Best Animated Feature, no matter what, is always Inside Out, Inside Out, Inside Out, Inside Out. Maybe there are a little few anomalies, but it's always been Inside Out. This year, however, it is a little bit different because now it's a mix between Zootopia and Kubo and the Two Strings. Admittedly, I haven't fully done my research on who's mostly the one that has been winning, like, a lot of awards, but Kubo and the Two Strings is, like, almost getting on par with Zootopia. Now, there have been a few award places that they would give out, like, miscellaneous animated features. Like, a few of them would give to Moana, a few of them would give to The Red Turtle, a few of them would give to Your Name, and, just a small variety like that. But for the most part, it is between Kubo and the Two Strings and Zootopia. However, I will say that considering with the pattern that, like, if you ignore the BAFTA Awards and you look at the other big ones, like the Annie Awards and the Golden Globe Awards, it seems like it's heading down to the path that there's a very strong chance that Zootopia is going to win. I'm still very convinced that it's still going to be Zootopia, especially with the big Disney connection and how it performed. I mean, yeah, sure. With Kubo and the Two Strings, it is absolutely a highly praised animated feature, and it's almost a masterpiece, and easily the best film that Laika has made since Coraline. But the thing is that there's also a little bit of a popularity contest that would be going on. Kubo and the Two Strings is sadly a box office flop. It didn't really make that much money in the first place. Whereas Zootopia, on the other hand, that one actually made $1 billion at the box office. So it definitely has a lot of notoriety, and, like, people immediately know what Zootopia is. So chances are that's going to be the big winner. The way that I see it, like, statistically in my head, like, for the nominations at the Oscars, the way that I imagine it is that there's a very high chance, like, there's a bigger chance that it's going to be Zootopia, more so that it is going to be Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, I'm not saying that there's no way that Kubo and the Two Strings would actually win the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. It still has a chance, but that chance is not going to be as big as Zootopia. So this could be another moment like with the Lego Movie where the BAFTAs and the Oscars are not going to be as well connected. But then again, who knows what could potentially happen? I mean, maybe I can easily imagine that the Oscars can actually pull off a complete left turn, and they decided that neither of them would win, and they would give it to Moana. So that could actually also play a big factor in that. But then again, that's just the Oscars. But I'm absolutely proud that I'm glad actually that Kubo and the Two Strings actually did win the BAFTA Awards, and that it's actually been getting all these different awards. It's such a fantastic movie, like I said before. And hopefully because of this, I do hope that this is going to be one of those films that even though it flopped at the box office, it will gain more and more popularity in the future. And I mean, like, when you do look at Laika films, even though, like, they're not as big at the box office, like, they do gain some popularity. Like, even to this day, a lot of people would definitely talk about films like Coraline or Paranorman, and like some of them would even talk about Kubo and the Two Strings. Not necessarily the Box Trolls, because I think it's pretty much unanimous that the Box Trolls is their weakest film. But definitely, I do wish to see Kubo and the Two Strings pretty much going down the same path as either The Iron Giant or The Secret of Nim or any of those movies, where it started out as a bomb, but eventually it will grow bigger and bigger into popularity, not just in the animation world, but also in the film industry, where it is recognized as an animated classic. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And all I could say is just congratulations to the team at Laika, to Travis Knight, and all the people for the big win at Kubo and the Two Strings, and also a nice little congratulations to the people at Disney and Pixar for their nomination on their films. And we'll see how things go next year when the BAFTA Awards will bring up more competition. Okay, so for our next story, I had to double check if I already talked about this, and technically, yes, I have. It's been like less than a year ago that I actually discussed about this movie in general, but there seems to be this new update that's going on with it. And I'm, of course, talking about a movie called Bubbles, which, if you don't know what it is, Bubbles is a stop-motion animated feature that's currently being made from the people that brought you Anomalisa, that's going to be an unauthorized biopic about Michael Jackson's pet chimpanzee, Bubbles. Now, the update that they're doing here is that they have officially assigned who is going to be directing the movie. Or at the very least, who will be the directors, because there are going to be two of them. Now, basically what they're doing is going to be the exact same thing with what they have done with Anomalisa, where they're going to have a director who's an animation veteran, which in Anomalisa's case is going to be Duke Johnson, and then they're going to bring in a live action director, which for Anomalisa they brought in Charlie Kaufman. Now for Bubbles, who they brought in is actually very fascinating. For the animation director, or the animation veteran who's going to be the director, they got Mark Gustafson. Mark Gustafson, for a long time, has been working at Will Vinton Studios, and then later, he would actually gain the reputation of being the animation director of Fantastic Mr. Fox. And even right now, he is working as a co-director on Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So this is definitely a guy that you can trust with stop motion, and especially with this kind of project right here. And as for the live action director, they actually brought in Taika Waititi, which in my source here on Cartoon Brew, he is the Oscar-nominated director who worked on the live-action short Two Cars, and right now he is actually working on Thor Ragnarok. And what is actually interesting that they mentioned about this Bubbles project, let me take from Taika's quote here. It actually stated, "This film is not about Michael Jackson because that's not a story for me to tell, or a story I'd be comfortable telling. It's about a chimpanzee's fascinating journey through the complex jungle of human life. I think animation is the only way to approach a story like this. I really loved Anomalisa because it was beautiful and authentic in its meditation on loneliness. I'm really excited to be working with Dan Harmon, the creator of Community, and Starburn, which is the studio that brought you Anomalisa, as we share similar sensibilities and want to tell human stories in unique and artistic ways." Now, looking into this entire the Bubbles project, originally for a while, I thought that this would be kind of like a bit of an unauthorized biography of Michael Jackson, because the original idea that I had on my head would be that this would be the biography of Michael Jackson in the point of view of Bubbles. But after what Taika stated, I mean, it would make sense if you're going to make a movie about Bubbles to be about Bubbles, You know what I mean? It's not necessarily about Michael Jackson, but more the story of the chimpanzee. And that can actually be pretty interesting because, there have been a lot of different stories about Michael Jackson and his pet chimpanzee Bubbles. So that can actually bring up something pretty unique. Sure, they're like it's easier to imagine the potential of what you can do, like when you see Michael Jackson's life through the eyes of Bubbles, considering like all the different controversies that happen with him, like how would Bubbles deal with it and all that kind of stuff. But then again, like when you actually do think more into it about that plot line, it wouldn't necessarily make sense. And I guess it would seem a bit more cartoony in a sense, where you would actually turn Bubbles into a cartoon character in a sense, you'll just see Bubbles going around. It's like, oh, what is Michael Jackson doing with that little boy? And it's like, no, that doesn't that doesn't really suit well with the reality of the situation that they would be going with. And especially like when you do think about Anomalisa, which is a lot more like down to earth, it's more grounded, it's more realistic than any other animated feature is made. Like basically what they're going to do with Bubbles is that they're going to they're going to go into an environment that is really believable in a real world, with the exception of like a few things that could make it, like the reason why it would be an animated feature in stop motion, kind of like with Anomalisa, where the reason why that movie is in stop motion is mostly for the visual representation of how Michael sees the world in a way where everybody looks and sound the same, with the exception of Lisa. And maybe with Bubbles we could see something that would be a little bit similar, but I definitely do trust the people at what was it again, Starburns Industries. Like, I know visually they can actually pull off something fantastic, and it's actually going to be quite interesting to see what they're going to do with Bubbles, especially like when you do think about it. It's not every day that you actually do see animals in a stop motion animated feature, or like using them as a main character in a sense. Like, sure, you definitely do see like dogs and cats in you see them in animated films, but like they're not necessarily as complex. And a lot of them, when you do think about it, like especially with Fantastic Mr. Fox, they would be more like anthropomorphic animals. I mean, like thinking about it now, like there is like, sure, you do have Frankenweenie, which actually stars a dog, and even the stop motion character of Frankenweenie himself is considered to be very complex. But and also, like, in a way, you got Kubo and the Two Strings with Monkey, but technically that is more like in a way you could put that a bit in the category of an anthropomorphic animal, considering that like Monkey is acting more human. So that's basically the point that I'm going with, is that it's not every day that you find an animal character in a stop motion animated feature actually acting like animals. So it's going to be pretty fascinating to see what they can do with what they can do with Bubbles with a chimpanzee. And not only do I trust Starburns, but I'm definitely glad that they actually brought in someone like Mark Gustafson, a massive stop motion veteran. And it's going to be nice to see the addition of Taika Waititi, and I'm sure the two can collaborate together to tell this pretty interesting story. So who knows how Bubbles can go? We don't know when it's going to be released, but hopefully we can see it be made. Now, for our next story, I want to talk to you guys about Illumination Entertainment. And as you guys may know, Illumination is currently one of the biggest animation studios around. Like, these guys know exactly how to release animated hit after animated hit. And especially with last year, they definitely proved that with The Secret Life of Pets and also Sing. Both highly successful films, like ranked up so much money at the box office, and even The Secret Life of Pets itself, that movie is already one of the highest grossing films of 2016, or like really way up there as like one of, if not the highest, or actually let me double check on that. I could definitely say one of the highest, but I don't know if it would be like the highest grossing film of 2016 that's not from Disney. You know, that's not from Marvel, that's not from Disney Animation, that's not from Pixar, or anything like that. I actually just want to check. I'm actually rather curious on that. So let's see. Right here. And, crap. Wait a minute. Crap. No, I only have the, okay, you know what? Screw it. Never mind. Okay, no. But you guys get what I mean, though. Is that Illumination is highly successful right now. And the biggest reason is that the way that they're handling things is not necessarily the same way that other studios would do it. Like, their strategy in order to craft animated features, not in just a creative sense, but also in a business sense, is far more different than anything that Disney would ever do, that Blue Sky would ever do, that DreamWorks would ever do, that Warner Brothers would ever do, what Sony would ever do, what any of them would do. And apparently Chris Meledandri has actually revealed a little bit of a secret of his strategy. And taking an article from Fast Company, it actually stated, interstitial ads and smartphone games have to be as compelling as the movies themselves. Nothing we do is ancillary, says founder and CEO Chris Meledandri. Every interaction the audience has with our characters is equally important to us, thanks to a dedicated creative unit that functions as an internal ad agency. 20% of the material Illumination created is simply in support of its movies, some appearing in increments as shorts as 5 seconds long. So basically, one of the secrets of Illumination's success is that 20% of the work that they have created is not in the movies themselves, but more whatever you can find that supports the movie. And this can range from animated shorts, it can range from like games that you play on your smartphone, from advertising, from anything like that. They put a massive importance on marketing. And that's the one big thing that I have noticed with Illumination, is that these guys are the masters of marketing, more than any other non-Disney animation studio I have ever seen. In fact, it could actually be debatable if they would actually even be on par or even better than what Disney is doing in terms of marketing. It is so unique, and it really, really is effective in a way that nowadays you cannot turn a corner without seeing anything that came out of Illumination Entertainment. And I'm not just talking about Minions and Despicable Me, but also now with the addition of stuff like Sing and The Secret Life of Pets, it's starting to be really, really big. And, you know, like when you do think about stuff like their iPhone games, like I remember seeing, like I haven't played them myself, but like when you see trailers and all that kind of stuff regarding the smartphone games that would have the Minions, they would actually be pretty legitimate, and like they would put in a lot more effort into those games than anything that would tie into a movie. Like, this is not just a promotional thing. Like, this would be like a legitimate game that would expand upon the Despicable Me universe. Like, they really do make these things rather important. And sometimes that would also explain why they would also not do things that others would. Like, there was actually a pretty fascinating article on Cartoon Brew where they actually mentioned that, believe it or not, Illumination Entertainment does not make any single art of books. Like, you go online and you'll discover that there is no such thing as a book called The Art of Despicable Me, or The Art of Secret Life of Pets, or The Art of the Lorax, or The Art of Sing, or anything like that. They don't exist. What happens is that the artists who actually worked on the movie, they would freely just post all of their artwork online. So it kind of serves as a bit as like just quick reference material that you can go and search on Google, and you'll have like everything that you need to know. And it's also like a good way to really expand upon and emphasize on who worked on it. Like, you know, it's made more as a portfolio for the artist himself. And, you know, that's actually pretty fascinating. And especially those for artists who don't really have a lot of money. Like, they can do a Google search on, like, the art of the Lorax if they're inspired by the artwork of Dr. Seuss. I mean, say what you will about the movie. Yeah, it's a piece of crap, but at least visually, it really did hit its mark. It is visually stunning. So, like, if you want to do research on how to craft Dr. Seuss characters, you can also look up on like what the Lorax movie actually did in terms of its backgrounds, in terms of their characters, and all that kind of stuff. You know, it really is unique in that sense. But also, another thing, I'm trying to think, like, there was this one thing that I just realized about something that Illumination actually does that, well, actually what Illumination doesn't do that any other studio does, but I don't know. I guess I'll get back to that one later. But anyways, no, it definitely is true. And you know what is actually pretty big that they would actually go and create? Like, when you do think about it, it is actually regarding the animated shorts, because it actually is true. And I'm not just referring to, like, the ones that would be in theaters, like with The Secret Life of Pets. Beforehand, there was this Minions animated short. But no, I'm talking more about the ones that would be released on DVD and Blu-ray. Like, I actually have the Blu-rays of the Despicable Me films and Minions. And they don't just say that it's the movie, you know? They don't just say that it's a Despicable Me Blu-ray. Like, it actually states, Despicable Me plus 3 mini-movies. Despicable Me 2 plus 3 mini-movies. Minions plus 3 mini-movies. And even The Secret Life of Pets. Like, it actually includes 3 mini-movies. And they actually do work pretty hard on that. You know, like, they try to make sure that it is as big, and it is, like, it keeps to the spirit of those of the movies that they're based on. Like, I even go to Walmart and I would actually find a lot of DVDs that would be just those mini movies alone, you know? Like, it's starting to become its own thing in a sense. And that's what I really do admire from Illumination. Like, they really do put in an importance onto everything else that they would go and craft. And even, like, another great example that I just thought of, like, another great example is that when you go to Universal, there's that Despicable Me ride, Minion Mayhem. Like, if you're, like, it's not necessarily made for everyone, but if you are a Despicable Me fan, like, that is actually one ride that you would truly appreciate. Like, especially when you go, like, outside, like, even, like, like, just before going into the ride, how they pretty much set everything up to look exactly like Gru's house. It's actually just fantastic, and it's beautifully crafted. And even, like, the show itself, like, when you're turned into a minion and you're into this giant training program where the girls are helping you train out, that's actually a lot of fun. And you could tell that they actually did put in a lot of effort to really make it as heartwarming and as funny as the Despicable Me movies. So yeah, like, if you are a major Despicable Me fan, you would definitely love the Minion Mayhem ride. Just saying. But yeah, this is actually something that I truly appreciate from Illumination, is because they have all these new and unique strategies in order to advertise and support their movies. And it really does pay off so well. And it really does emphasize the factor that you need to think of new strategies in order to go and promote your films. Because let's be honest, the old-fashioned way isn't working out as well. This is pretty much why like studios like DreamWorks Animation, Sony Animation, Blue Sky, Warner Brothers, and all those guys, like they're still trying to advertise and promote the movies the old-fashioned way, like how it was back in the 2000s, and it's really not working out as well. This is why they're not succeeding as much as either Illumination or Disney, which is why you would see companies like they would end up like retweaking their strategies, or you would see big events happening like how DreamWorks Animation ended up being bought by NBC Universal last year, or how Sony Animation wants to craft this new strategy in order to promote their films and try to be exactly like the old-fashioned DreamWorks Animation back like how it was in the 2000s decade, which honestly is a giant risk. It could either work or it could absolutely fail to the point that they could be dead, but who knows about that. But yeah, this is actually very fascinating about Illumination and how they put emphasis and importance onto the marketing and stuff like that. And I can definitely see how 20% is all dedicated to everything but the movie, and they've definitely done a great job with that. So let's see how this strategy grows. Now, for our next story, we are going to be talking about a brand new Yu-Gi-Oh series. Now, admittedly for me, it has been a little while since I've seen anything from a Yu-Gi-Oh anime, not just from the first one or anything like that, just Yu-Gi-Oh in general. It has been a while since I've seen or decided to watch anything from it. But it seems that they are already going out there to craft a brand new series, believe it or not. Apparently Shonen Jump has already mentioned that the current series that they're working on, Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, is going to be coming to a close, and they're going to bring in a brand new one called Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. Or I think that's what it's called. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. And, maybe there is a specific way that you could say it, but who knows. But going into my source here, onto Anime News Network, it says, the new anime will feature characters using leading-edge technology to create a virtual space where they will host VR duels. So basically the big thing that they are going to emphasize is that they are going to do virtual reality dueling. And continuing on, the show's protagonist is Yusaku Fujiki, and his ace monster is named Decode Talker, who wields a giant sword. Yusaku transforms from his school uniform, where he enters the VR space for duels. He also has different color hair after he transforms, and he rides a surfboard while dueling. So the big thing about this is that it's not just Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels, and instead of going into holograms and stuff like that, we are going to be entering upon virtual reality. And it still maintains some of the same elements from the previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, like the main character still goes to school, and we're going to meet many of his friends and stuff like that. But this time, like, he's going into virtual reality, and you can pretty much go and craft not just the monsters, but you can pretty much craft yourself, like your avatar per se. And somehow Yusaku decided that he's going to change his hairstyle and he's going to be a freaking surfer. So a lot of the time we will see surf dueling. That's basically the big idea. I mean, there's nothing much that we can criticize here, considering that one of the previous series, they've decided to go and do motorcycle dueling, so maybe this is not going to be too different. And I'm sure that, jokingly, a lot of people are curious about how is the hair, because that's one thing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is very well known for, is characters with wild, crazy hair. And this one right here, I have no idea what's going on. I mean, like, It's a combination of dark blue, light blue, and pink. And I don't even know, I'm even questioning if it's hair anymore. It's starting to look like a style that they're going with, like, Gundam robots or something like that. It's starting to be freaking weird. It's just absolutely confusing. No, but if I may talk about a bit of the concept that, like, now they're going to go into virtual reality dueling, that's actually a pretty cool idea. And I can see that as a way that it could be interpreted as a more realistic kind of, like, series in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh standards. Like, especially with the technology that we have right now, like how virtual reality is now becoming such a legitimate thing, and it's coming closer and closer to the mainstream. Like, I could totally imagine that, like, virtual reality, especially, like, playing not just card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, but just, like, with the Pokemon trading card game, or even, what else, like Magic the Gathering, or any of those things, like, it can easily be interpreted into virtual reality. So, and I, like, honestly, I even heard that there are some people who are currently working on trying to make virtual reality dueling a real thing. Like, you would play Dark Magician or Blue Eyes White Dragon, and when you play those cards, like, and they don't have to be specialized cards, they could be like any cards. The virtual reality program will recognize that it is either Dark Magician or Blue Eyes White Dragon, and, like, they'll bring up a hologram. So you can pretty much duel like in the anime, and, like, you can actually, like, play the cards, and suddenly the monsters will suddenly appear, and, like, when you tell them to attack a monster, they'll go and actually attack the monster. And yeah, like, the idea, like, now we have an entire series that's devoted to just to virtual reality dueling. I can imagine that, like, it could definitely tie into reality, and it is actually a pretty cool idea. Now, in terms of how it's going to be as a series in itself, honestly, who knows at this point? Like I said before, I kind of quit Yu-Gi-Oh, the anime series, somewhere, like, in the middle, or, like, in the second half of Yu-Gi-Oh GX. I didn't even bother watching any of the other ones, like, what were the other ones? Like Yu-Gi-Oh 5D, Zexal, or Arc V. Like, I honestly have not seen any of those shows, and I don't know how much they have progressed during this time. Like, I don't know if they're more serious than it is in the age of Yu-Gi, or if they're a lot more goofy, or, like, honestly, right now, the tone that they want to do with Yu-Gi-Oh, it's a bit foreign to me. I'm sure, like, it sticks a little bit of the same, where they want to keep the intensity of Yu-Gi-Oh, and they want to go and try to take itself a little bit seriously when playing with the card games, considering that's the main thing about this series. But who knows? Like, maybe it could be good, maybe not. Maybe the characters would be great and memorable, like in the days of Yugi, that we can have, like, successors to Taya, Tristan, Joey, Kaiba, and all those people. Or we might end up with people like in the GX series, like Cyrus or Alexis, or the Chaz. Like, that's one thing I remember in the second series. The Chaz is always number one. No, but who knows? But anyways, if you guys somehow have Japanese TV and you are actually excited to see how Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS will go, then it's going to be happening this spring on TV Tokyo. And so, finally, we now have Matt's Pick of the Week. And for this week, I'm going to be very honest with you guys. There really hasn't been a lot of animation news that occurred this week. Things have been rather calm in the animation industry. No big announcements or anything like that. It's just business as usual. Things are going pretty okay, I suppose. I mean, like, you know the old saying, no news is good news, so at least things are being pretty okay for the most part, or at the very least, nothing too big that's important enough to be announced to the public. So what I decided to do, instead of talking about an animation story, I want to go and talk about a news story that is related more into the field that I am more directly involved with, which is YouTube. And you might have heard about what happened this week on that end, and I'm talking, of course, about PewDiePie. And my God, Felix is in massive trouble, and he's already getting big punishments for it. Now, for those of you who don't know what happened, or if you don't fully know the story of what's been going on, allow me to tell you, like, through the numerous of sources that I've found, and I don't just mean news stories, but also different YouTube videos that discuss this as well. So I'm going to do my best to talk about what basically happened. No bias on for PewDiePie or against PewDiePie. Let me just tell you directly what happened. Okay, so it all started when PewDiePie has made several videos related to Fiverr. Now, for those of you who don't know, Fiverr actually provides a service where you can pay someone $5, and it could be anybody, and you can write down a message. And for that $5, that person will do a creative way to, present the message you want to say. Like, for example, I want a special way to present my catchphrase, "What the fridge?" So what I do is that I go to Fiverr, and I'll pay someone $5, and I'll write down "What the fridge?" And they will do a special thing with my message. Like, someone would blow up a balloon, and, like, as it inflates, the words "What the fridge" would be more prominent. Or, like, you would see this guy in Africa, he would be, like, crossing a river, and then suddenly he will be holding a sign up that would say, "What the fridge?" So basically, that's the big thing with Fiverr. Now, PewDiePie decided to go and take it to the extreme, and he wanted to go and use it for humor, in a sense. And I guess what he decided to do is shock humor by going with a little bit of a Nazi theme. So you'll see PewDiePie paying like a couple of poor Indian kids $5 so that they would go and hold up a sign that says "Death to all Jews." Or he would pay $5 for a guy dressed up as Jesus to say Hitler did nothing wrong. Now, it's not because, like, he wants to promote hatred or anything like that. It's for the purpose of shock humor. But then, Wall Street Journal came in, and they actually discovered these posts that PewDiePie made, and they just suddenly went bursting out and said, "Oh my God, did you see what PewDiePie just did? He's now making anti-Semitic posts and making kids hold up signs that said death to all Jews. Oh my God, what is PewDiePie thinking?" And all that kind of stuff. Basically, just really emphasizing on how Felix is pretty much putting posts that would contain messages that would say death to all Jews or Hitler did nothing wrong and all that kind of stuff. And ever since that Wall Street Journal article posted up, so many other entertainment media news sites, they pretty much ate that crap up. Like, you'll see articles from Forbes, The Wrap, The Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and all that kind of stuff. Like, even like Slash Films, The Playlist, anything that you could think of, they would go and report on how PewDiePie would be posting anti-Semitic posts. And because of that, there have actually been some major consequences for it. Disney, who owns the YouTube network Maker Studios, decided to break their ties. They decided to go and terminate the contract. Google decided to step in and take away PewDiePie out of the Google Preferred program. And on top of that, his YouTube Red series Scare PewDiePie is officially canceled. They were in the process of making season 2, but now it's completely over. It's no longer made, it's done. It's no longer going to exist, basically. So now PewDiePie is in a position that now he's completely on his own, and his reputation now is pretty much getting a serious punch to the face. Now, here's the thing though. With his reputation being so bad, a lot of people are actually buying into what those articles are saying, and now he's actually pretty much being portrayed as either anti-Semitic or even just being called a flat-out Nazi. However, with what PewDiePie has pulled out, let me just say that there are only two kinds of people that would actually do what PewDiePie just did with the whole Fiverr stunt and trying to bring out like these anti-Semitic messages. And by the way, I just want to have a quick mention that this is not the first time that PewDiePie would actually do these kinds of shock humor that has a Nazi theme. Like apparently, like many articles have actually stated that there are 9 different videos that PewDiePie actually made that would have this kind of shock humor, 3 of which have actually been removed. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, there are only 2 kinds of people that would actually do what PewDiePie just did. One is the kind of people that actually do believe in anti-Semitism, the real Nazis out there. Like, they would actually go and do something that would, you know, please themselves and please other anti-Semites to actually go and try to deliver messages of hate of like death to all Jews or white people are the master race and all that kind of stuff. Or you have the other group of people that are just idiots. The kind of people that would just do that and they think that it's funny. And that's the category that PewDiePie fits in. He's an idiot. Because somehow thinking just posting messages of death to all Jews or saying that Hitler did nothing wrong is apparently funny. That's all you need to say. Like, apparently just saying Hitler did nothing wrong is comedy material that somehow writes itself. No, absolutely not. And let me tell you why. Because the thing is that it's not really the factor that it's offensive or that, you know, I would be like, oh my god, I am insulted that PewDiePie would say something like death to all Jews. No. I was never offended when I saw those PewDiePie videos trying to make those messages. It's the real problem here is that it's not funny. Like, that's it. It's not offensive. It's just not funny. And it's mostly the entire execution of how he did the joke is what really failed here. Now, allow me to explain. The thing is that shock humor is a very, very difficult and delicate form of comedy. Like, you really have to set yourself in the correct positions. You gotta say the right things, and you gotta set up the right setups in order to make shock humor actually good, actually funny, and actually not insulting. It's not easy, trust me. Like, even some great comedians wouldn't be able to pull off great shock humor. And there are very few people out there that would know how to master this craft. Now, in order to fully emphasize why is it that PewDiePie's stunt here is not really funny, allow me to make a comparison here with the producers, because they kind of pulled off something that's a little bit similar with the whole springtime for Hitler bit. Now, for those of you who know what the producers is, rather it be the classic film by Mel Brooks, or the 2001 Tony Award winning musical, or even the 2005 movie musical, then you're probably familiar with the plot line. Now, the thing is, why is it that Springtime for Hitler is actually funny when PewDiePie is not? Okay, now here's the thing. Now, with Springtime for Hitler, you know for a fact that there is a purpose to the Broadway show. Never once do you ever think that either Max Bialystock or Leo Bloom is actually anti-Semitic. there is actually a point to Springtime for Hitler. There is a purpose. And the reason is because this is all a get-rich-quick scheme. This is all meant to emphasize that, like, they want to go out there, create the worst Broadway show humanly imaginable, because, as Leo Bloom stated, you can make more money with a flop than with a hit. Never once did they ever think that this is a show that they legitimately want to go and create. They don't believe in that message. They know for a fact that everything in here is absolutely terrible. They know that a Broadway show that would glorify Hitler would be would be like terrible, would be just like downright the worst thing humanly imaginable, because they're actually seeking for people to be offended. They're actually looking out for people to be mad, to feel like they've wasted their money, to feel offended. They're actually hunting for that. That's the whole thing with Springtime for Hitler. You know, like I said before, never once do you ever think that Max Bialystock or Leo Bloom is actually anti-Semitic, that they're actually Nazis. They're just going because there's a major purpose to Springtime for Hitler, is because they want to create the worst Broadway show in the world, and they try so hard to set it up to make it like the worst thing ever. Hire the worst writer, hire the worst director, and like, you know, set it up for a disaster that it actually pays off so well in a comedic standpoint when it actually turned out to be a hit that everyone loves. And that's why the producers work, because there is a purpose to the Nazi joke. Now let's take a look at PewDiePie's video. Okay, so the big thing is that PewDiePie gave $5 to some poor Indian kids to hold up a sign that says "Death to all Jews." Okay, so he did that. Why? That's the big thing. Why? Well, the only answer that I can think of is because he can. That's the only purpose of it. Like, when you do think about it, like, what does he want to do with that video of, like, poor Indian kids holding up a sign that says "Death to all Jews"? Like, what are they going to do, you know? Like, does he want to use it, like, in a similar way with the producers, where he wants to create the worst YouTube video of all time? Is it to go out and try to make the word, like, you know, like he's plotting to go and create the most hated, the most disliked YouTube video of all time that would make a Justin Bieber or like that Friday video look like, you know, the most beloved thing of all time? No, there's no purpose. He's just doing it because he can. And it definitely left a poor taste onto people's mouths, because, like, this is just a rich white guy just exploiting the fact that he is a rich white guy. There's no purpose to the punchline. You know, there's no purpose to why kids are holding up a sign that says "Death to all Jews." There's no purpose why Jesus is apparently saying that Hitler did nothing wrong. Like, there's no setup for it. Like, he's just doing it because he thinks that, like, the message of "Death to all Jews" is enough to make good shock humor. But it's not. It's a very difficult and delicate process. This is why people like Mel Brooks, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, Louis C.K., and many more, they've they've worked so hard to craft their jokes very carefully in order to make, like, this kind of hate message into comedy gold that everybody can enjoy. Like, even a Jewish Holocaust survivor would actually think something that Mel Brooks has made is actually funny. Where PewDiePie over here, he did not. He failed to pull off this comedic stunt. And sadly, it's really costing his career right now. Well, not costing his entire career, but it's seriously damaging. I mean, I don't really blame Google or Disney for doing what they do to really, like, strip him off of many of his deals, like with Maker or with his YouTube Red series, or taking him away from Google Preferred. I understand that, and they have every right to do so, and I can imagine any other company with common sense, they would probably do the same thing, because this is the exact kind of reaction that you're trying to avoid when making shock humor. This is the kind of punishment that you would get when you fail to go bring out shock humor. You'll end up actually offending people. You know, you'll end up doing more harm than good, and you'll have people actually see you believe in those messages when because that's kind of the thing. When you don't really have a purpose to why you're bringing out messages of hate like death to all Jews or Hitler did nothing wrong, then of course a lot of people will see you as they'll actually see you as an actual Nazi and stuff like that. You know, that's the thing. Even though you are not, you probably didn't think too carefully of the consequences that would happen. And that's exactly what happened here with PewDiePie. But I will say that I would be an absolute liar if I say that this is all PewDiePie's fault that he's in the position that he is now. Now, I have seen, like, PewDiePie's response to this entire controversy, and especially, like, the biggest one is probably Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions video that would talk about this entire controversy. And they actually did bring up a good point that the biggest part of why PewDiePie got so much in trouble is actually because of the media. And the big thing is that when you look at the articles like Wall Street Journal or Forbes or anything like that, you'll notice that they have seriously stretched the truth from what actually did happen. Because the big thing is, like, I'm actually using the Forbes article, and it even says that Disney and YouTube Red cut ties with PewDiePie after anti-Semitic posts. And that's what they've been labeling what PewDiePie has done with Fiverr, is that they've called it anti-Semitic post. All that they're saying about those videos in particular is just those bits, saying that PewDiePie released a video where he paid $5 to some poor Indian kids to hold up a sign that says "Death to all Jews." Literally, that's it. They don't really specify more information about what those videos are actually about. You know, and they don't really specify that he's just using it for shock humor and stuff like that. You know, they just emphasize the fact that he did anti-Semitic posts and how people are reacting to it in, like, that they're saying that he is anti-Semitic or that he's a Nazi is exactly the way that the media wants people to see PewDiePie. Because let's be very honest, the relationship between PewDiePie and the media, it's a lot like the Uncle Remus stories. The media is Brer Fox and PewDiePie is Brer Rabbit, where PewDiePie would always find these tricks to go and screw with the media all the time. And the media is always out to hunt for PewDiePie's head for a long time. And I mean, if you don't believe me, the greatest recent example that I can think of is the time when PewDiePie pulled a publicity stunt where he stated that he wants to go and delete his YouTube channel when he hits 50 million subscribers. And wouldn't you know it, it actually worked. He now has more than 50 million. So, hey, if it's stupid and it works, then it's not stupid. But in this case right here, PewDiePie is actually the one that set up his own tar baby. And right then and there, when he brought up those anti-Semitic posts, the media is just there like, "I finally caught you down there, PewDiePie. Now you're mine, and you're not getting away this time." So yeah, basically, they, like, both Ethan and Felix did bring up a very good point that a large part of this entire controversy is caused by the media really stretching the truth. And if I may put into my piece regarding people who are actually calling PewDiePie a Nazi, or they actually do believe that he is anti-Semitic, okay, that's a little bit ridiculous. That is just immediately jumping into conclusions. Because the one thing that I know for a fact, I don't know PewDiePie myself, but I know that he is not a Nazi, okay? He doesn't believe in any Nazi garbage, okay? You don't see him go Heil Hitler in a casual manner. You don't see him legitimately believing in, like, that he wants to see death to all Jews. You don't see him as a member of the alt-right. He doesn't think that the greatest thing to happen in modern American history is to have Donald Trump as president. He doesn't have, like, a douchebag haircut. Well, maybe that could be debatable, but I don't know about it. to be honest, I should be the last person to criticize about someone's hair. But anyways, going back to what I was saying, he doesn't actually believe, like, he doesn't write or read Breitbart and actually takes that seriously. He's not a laughably pathetic leader whose only reputation is to get punched in the face. You know, he's not using freedom of speech as an excuse to go bully and spread messages of hate. There's nothing about him that is a Nazi. He is not anti-Semitic. He is not a Trump supporter. He is not a member of the alt-right. He is not a Nazi. He is not any of those labels. No, he is not. Okay? Trying to call, like, honestly, calling him a Nazi is equally as absurd as PewDiePie paying $5 to a bunch of poor Indian kids to hold up a sign that says, "Death to all Jews," okay? That's ridiculous. We cannot jump to conclusions and immediately believe what one article stated, or even just the headline of an article stated, okay? You need to do a little bit more research. PewDiePie is not a Nazi. He's just a bad comedian. And that's the thing. You know, like, I know that I am going a little bit hard on PewDiePie himself. I know I have been. But I just want to mention, I don't hate PewDiePie. Personally, I don't watch his videos, but I don't hate him. Like, I'm not dreaming of the day to see his massive downfall. Like, I understand that it really does suck for the guy that he's in the position that he is now, and that he lost so many opportunities, like his connection with Maker Studios, with YouTube Red, or with Google Preferred, and any of that stuff. I understand that it really does suck. But the big thing is that what I want PewDiePie to do is that I want him to understand the error that he has done. Because in his response video, by the way, I call that a response video because that is not an apology video. Never once did he actually apologize for the stupid things that he has actually done, including making these jokes. He thinks that it's all the media's fault, which is not true. Like, he has to take partial responsibility for what he has done here. There is no way that he could be in this much trouble and say that he did nothing wrong. He has to do at least something to merit this kind of freaking mess. So what I wish for PewDiePie to do is to look at this and really take it as a lesson to really improve upon his comedy. That he would actually consider to go out and actually, you know, strengthen his comedy skills so that he would actually be able to properly do, like, a Nazi joke that everybody could actually laugh and enjoy in the same veins that they would, like, with a Mel Brooks movie or with a South Park episode. You know, I want him to take this as a lesson. You know, just take this as a lesson to really improve his comedy skills so that he wouldn't end up being in trouble like this. Instead of like, also, like, acting a bit like Donald Trump and saying that the media is the enemy and all that kind of stuff. He has to take responsibility for his own actions, even if it's just a part of it. Like, he could say that the main problem is the media, but he has to look upon himself saying that he did something wrong. And I understand that in that response video, he did call himself a rookie comedian. But honestly, that sounds more like he's more of a stupid comedian, because honestly, even rookie comedians would know that their skills are not strong enough to do any sort of shock humor like what PewDiePie just did. But yeah, that's kind of the big thing, is that PewDiePie needs to learn that he needs to take partial responsibility that what he did is that, like, any of the poorly executed Nazi jokes that he did is actually wrong. Now, I'm not saying that he should not do any Nazi jokes. I'm not discouraging that, saying don't do Nazi jokes, period. Like, I'll admit, like, I even have done some Hitler jokes on my videos. He just needs to learn to improve his comedy skills so that he can make better Hitler jokes. That's what he should probably take from this, is to go and make, to improve his comedic skills, rather it be just taking classes on it, or, to study the art of comedy, or even watch some movies that properly do shock humor, like Mel Brooks films or some South Park episodes, and learn how to properly execute on how to do shock humor. But in the current position that PewDiePie is right now, all he is, I can honestly say, I'm sorry if it sounds blunt, but PewDiePie is just a bad comedian. And I say that as a fact because only bad comedians would make jokes that would end up damaging his career. But anyways, that is pretty much it for this week. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can find more of my work at film-book.com. All you have to do is search for Mathieu Brunet or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on my Twitter at Animat505. If you have listened to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little favor and rate and review this episode? That would be wonderful. And if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that little like button in our video and leave us a little comment on your thoughts on the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest news on animation, or the latest episode of the Animation Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next week, see you later, dudes.